7 years, the executive vice chairman with our firm, closing in, just about to tip over the $1 million mark. It is $1 million ring with a company. Just a phenomenal accomplishment. Started after he was 23 years old. He actually worked in the restaurant industry, making $11 an hour before coming into this industry. So it just doesn't matter what your background is. It's what you actually do once you get here. Please help me welcome Steve Holbrook to the front.
All right.
Man, I thought the only place that existed down here was Tootsie's. I came down here for a couple days. I spent a month for a weekend down here once. It was pretty good. How you guys doing? Yeah, what a great group of people. I just want to thank your leadership on having the vision to throw this event. I appreciate having the opportunity to come. This means as much to me to be here as anybody else in the room. And I just want you to know that you're in the right place. You know, I'm standing on the side there. I was listening to that couple where's that couple who started the Detroit Initiative? Right? Where's that couple? Right there. That was awesome. Let's give them a round of applause. That was an awesome message. Appreciate you saying that stuff. You're right, you just can't quit. You just can't quit. You know, I'm going to tell my story here for the next 50 minutes. And then tomorrow I'm going to spend an hour with you. We're going to go through some nuggets. I'm going to be dropping bombs for about an hour tomorrow. So you want to make sure you have a couple pens in case you're out of the bank. But my name is Steve Holbrook. You know, how many of you have been in the company for longer than 3 years? Raise your hand. Right? So there's a lot of new people in the room. There's a lot of new people in the room. And I want to tell you my story today. Some of you heard it before. But look, this is my story. And you guys all have your story. And one of the best things that Rail Michaud told me the day I started, he said, Steve, at the end of the day, all you have is your story. When you take away all the points and the recruits and the ups and the downs, all you have is your story. And for the first 6 months in my business, I never really talked about my story and my struggles growing up and the things that I had to battle with, because I'm not the guy that loves sympathy. I like to avoid those things. It makes me feel uncomfortable when I feel like people feel sorry for me. So that's not the point of my message today. I want you to find something in my story that you can relate to. I know there's some things that some of you have been through, different than me, as difficult. The first speaker up here was talking about, you know, growing up poor. I never grew up super poor. I didn't have that issue. I had some health challenges, so we're going to get into it. I grew up in a place called Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Anybody been in Calgary before? Yeah, 10 of you guys. We send our hockey team down here a couple times a year to get pounded by the Predators, the Calgary Flames. But born and raised in Calgary. My dad was a bricklayer. My mom was an administrative assistant. They worked super hard. Super hard. My dad would get up before the sun got up. He would come down long after I was in bed. He was gone for sometimes 4 to 6 weeks at a time out to find work. And I just kind of thought that was normal. I just thought that that's what you're supposed to do. That's how hard you're supposed to work. The one thing my parents taught me is how to work super hard. So I grew up in a great family. You know, my parents, they provided us everything that we needed. You know, we didn't really go without food. That's not part of my story. I just knew how to work super hard. And as I was growing up, I remember going to grade school, junior high school. It was grade 8. I'm on the bus one day, and I was a really small kid. Right? If the other kids were this tall, I was about this tall. I always looked 3 or 4 years younger. Anybody relate to that? I know Jeff looks super young for his age still, right? There you go, buddy. So I'm on the bus, and I want you to imagine yourself in grade 8 with a big, heavy backpack. And I'm riding the bus, and I see this restaurant called Earl's up in Canada. And man, Earl's was the place to be. I mean, if you were anybody, you had a job at Earl's. Right? That's how I was thinking. I said, man, I got to get in the game. I got to get a job at Earl's. I want to start dating girls, and I want to start being cool, so I want to get a job at Earl's. So I got off the bus one day, a couple stops early. I got my backpack on. I walked across the crosswalk. I walked into Earl's. opened up the door, and the hostess kind of looked literally down at me, and she goes, "You looking for your parents?" I said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "I'm here to get a job." She says, "Doing what?" I said, just get me in front of the manager. I said, "I need to get a job." So I sat up at she goes, "Have a seat at the bar." So I sit up at the bar, I'm leaning back on the bar stool, right, I'm putting out vibes. I'm like, man, this is gonna be a good place for me to work. All of a sudden, the kitchen guy comes out, he sits down beside me, he looks at me, he goes, "What can I do for you?" I said, "Man, I'm here to get a job." He's like, "How old are you?" I'm like, "I'm 15. He goes, "I don't even know if you're old enough to work here." He goes, "But I'll take a look." So we started talking. I said, "Man, I want to be somebody, and I want to get in the environment. I want to be a part of something, right? I'm getting picked on at school, and I'm a small kid. I'm not in a good environment." He goes, "Look, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if we have a job here for you, but if you want a job, you come back here tomorrow the same time, and you impress me with something." That was the first time in my life that I remember being challenged like that. So I went home, and I didn't take the bus. I walked those 4 extra blocks, got my backpack on. I'm like, man, I got to blow this guy's mind. So I'm going through all my school grades, and I'm like D-, C+. C+ was pretty good, right? C-, D-. I'm like, man, C+ was the best mark I had, except one class, home economics. And then I made a killer pair of NFL helmet boxers, and I made a really good menu that I pretty much cut and glued together that I got 97% on the combo project. So I went home that night. It's a true story. I went home that night, and the manager to this day is one of my best friends. I went home that night. I went down in my bedroom. I pulled out my boxers that I just made in home ec, put them in a little Ziploc bag, pulled out my menu. I put it in a little Ziploc bag. I Ziploc nice and tight, packed in my backpack. Hadn't told my parents I was getting a job yet. Didn't sleep a wink. Right, went to school. Next day, got off the bus, had a little hop in my step. Right, running across the crosswalk. Go, same lounge manager. Girl looks down. She goes, "You're back." Of course I'm back. I said, "I got a meeting." She's like, "With who?" I'm like, "With Naz. Go get Naz. Naz." Right? So I sat back up at the bar. I'm drinking my free pops. Right? I'm like, man, this place is awesome. Free pop. Right? Drink. I wasn't allowed to drink pop at home. This was cool. So I'm sitting at the bar, leaning back, and all of a sudden I see Naz's little head pop out behind the kitchen. He's like, "What?" Right? He comes out, sits down, pulled out my Ziploc, and went, bam, dropped it right on the bar. He just opens it up. He's like, "Hey, you can keep these." Man, they had pockets in them. They were legit. I sewed pockets in my boxers. Anyway, pulls out the menu, starts like peeling through it. It was a cut and paste job. It wasn't great, but I thought I was pretty proud. It was 97%, right on the front in red marker, 97%. He goes, "I just need a minute." I said, "Yeah, for sure." Takes the menu, goes in the back of the kitchen, right? 5 minutes go by, 10 minutes go by. All of a sudden I see all these cooks poke their head around the outside of the kitchen. He comes back out, he goes, "Oh, you're hired, man." I'm like, "Sweet." He goes, "That's the good news." He goes, "But here's the other news." He goes, "We need someone to close dish. You have $4.25 an hour, but we need someone to close dish 6 nights a week." I said, "I'm in, man." He said, "It's 6 p.m. till 2 a.m. is when we close." I said, "I'm in." So man, I went home that night. I said, "Mom, I got a job. I think I'm working like 35 hours a week, right? Part-time, I think. I don't know if it's full-time, part-time." I was so fired up. My parents were so mad at me for getting a job in grade 8. But man, I was in the game. I was fired up. I felt like I belonged there. My mom would drop me off there at 6 o'clock, and she'd pick me up at 2 a.m. because she was so worried I was going to get robbed on the walk home. I mean, it was awesome. I was so small, I couldn't even lift the glass rack off the top shelf. I had to ask the 19-year-old lounge girls to lift it down for me. Pretty good gig, right? Pretty good gig. So there I was. You know, to be honest, I just wanted to get in the game. I just wanted to be a part of something. Growing up, being sick, and I'm going to talk about it in a second, I got picked on a lot. I got bullied super, super hard. And I look back then and I think about that kid that got picked on, and I see my son in that situation. I think about him being in that situation, and it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. Got into high school, started rocking and rolling, right? Started to get my confidence back up. After high school, I decided to go traveling for a year. So I applied on this 188-foot vessel, 3 masts, down in San Diego. This was not like Breaker High, this was like White Squall, right? Learned how to sail. We had 160 lines, it was a pirate ship. Oh, there it is. Yeah, go back one. They accepted 60 kids from around the world. And we all had to write an essay, and I got a letter in the mail saying I was accepted. Just based on character, I sent a lot of references in, so they flew me down to San Diego. I learned how to sail for 3 weeks, celestial navigation using the stars. I got my certified sailor card, it's pretty legit, right? I tell the girls that I'm a seaman, right? Legit, it was legit. Okay, certified seaman, right here. I lived on that ship. We sailed, first sail from San Diego to Hawaii. And we didn't use our motor, we used the sails. And we were going super fast, like 10 knots. But out of the 60 kids, about 50 of them had really, really bad seasickness. And I was one of those people. And I remember this one, it was a 2-week sail. It took us 2 weeks to sail from San Diego to Hawaii. And I remember this one moment, we're kind of all sitting on the deck. We all have our rain gear on because it's raining. And I look over at my friend Morgan, and we're kind of just like huddled on each other. And she looks at me, she just goes, bleh. Just like, and I was like, oh my gosh, like 10 months of this, really? After a week though, we all got better, we got to Hawaii. Then we sailed down to the South Pacific Islands of Fiji and Kiribati. Then we got to the northern tip of Australia, Darwin. Then we went to Indonesia. Right, we got off, we got to ride our bikes through the rice fields. Then we went to Madagascar, which is cool because I'm bilingual, I speak French. And then it was time to set sail to Cape Horn of Africa. One of those dangerous places to sail in the entire world. It's where the two seas collide. Yeah. And we had this moment, I could talk for 3 hours, where we almost capsized. It was all hands on deck. I woke up on the floor. It was crazy. We all went on deck. We all harnessed in. We hit a major squall, about 120-foot swells. It was super intense. Most of the people on board were like crying. It was very emotional. We were just waiting to abandon ship, and just like God intervened, and all of a sudden the clouds just separated, the sea just kind of calmed down, and we sat there for 2 hours. Nobody said a word to each other. And it's funny because we made it through that, but 5 years later, that boat actually sunk off the coast of Brazil. And there was 55 kids at sea. The Brazilian Coast Guard missed there was a mix-up. So they didn't get the beacon. They were at sea for 2 full days. And a tanker found them in the middle of the ocean. Nobody was hurt, nobody died, but that ship was now at the bottom of the ocean. So there we were in Cape Town, Africa. We went to Durban, then went to Cape Town, and then we went to East Africa, a little place called Namibia. Anybody heard of Namibia, Africa? Yeah. And we got to sail down these sand mountains, one of the most beautiful places in the world. Africa, I love Africa. It's my favorite place to go. So we're sailing down these sand mountains, and I fell, and I swallowed a bit of sand. And I could feel my lungs kind of tightening up. And this was on Friday, and we were supposed to set sail for a place called St. Helena on Sunday. St. Helena is right in the middle of the ocean. It's where Napoleon got exiled to die. That's where they sent him. And we were setting sail. And my lungs started to fill a little bit with fluid. I mentioned it to our surgeon on board. Then all of a sudden, my Crohn's kicked in. I started bleeding. I started swelling. I started losing weight. It was Sunday morning. I said, Doc, I'm really sick. I don't know if I can set sail. He says, well, we need to find you a doctor. Well, on Sunday in Africa, nothing's open. So he went scouring the town. He comes back. He goes, I got good news and bad news. The good news is I found someone to do us a colonoscopy. The bad news is he was a doctor 20 years ago, but now him and his wife run a veterinary clinic down the corner. So I went down there with my doctor, lied on a metal table, had a colonoscopy at a veterinary clinic. That sucker went in about 30 centimeters, and he goes, "You're real sick. You're real sick. I'm not sure if you should set sail." So my doctor and I had a meeting. I really wanted to continue the trip. They put me on about 100 milligrams of prednisone. We decided to set sail. 2 days into the sail, my right lung partially collapsed. I had a partial pneumothorax, and they had to put me into induced coma. I was unconscious for the next 3 days. We got to St. Helena. I got airlifted out by a military Learjet off the island of St. Helena, straight back to Calgary. I had part of my right lung removed. I had a rare fungal infection that to this day they still don't know what it was. But what happens when you have Crohn's disease, which is a chronic illness, and I've had it since I was 2. I mean, my whole life, you guys, that's my story. My whole life growing up, it was a month or 2 in the hospital. trying to figure it out, right? Trying to get through the illness. And the issue with the chronic illness is that it just doesn't go away. You have no control, and you just when you feel like you're getting a handle on your life just collapses. That's what it felt like. So I get back to Calgary, got my lung fixed up, I'm sitting on my mom's couch. I'm like, man, what am I going to do with my life? I just went through a Reader's Digest situation. My mom's like, you're going to go back to school. I was like, no, I don't want to go back to school. She's like, we've already registered you for business school. So there I went. I went to Edmonton, Alberta, 3 hours north. I went to U of A. I took a bilingual Bachelor of Commerce. I was introduced to a trial drug called Remicade. The drug was so new to Canada, they didn't know the effects of it. They didn't know the effects of it. Here's what they told me. There's a 2% chance that I was going to get cancer from this trial drug. But if the drug worked, I wouldn't have to pay the $4,000 a month that it was costing my family for the rest of my life. So we weighed the options. We had a family meeting. I went on the original trial drug at Remicade, and it saved my life. For the next, thank you. Saved my life. For the next 4 years, until I built up an immunity, and that drug started to wear down, and I started to progressively get sick again. Right after I graduated from U of A, I had 2 options. I had now worked at Earl's Restaurants for 9 years, and I was 23 years old. And Earl's offered me a general manager position at a store that was grossing about $5.5 million. They offered me $110,000 a year. I would have been the youngest GM in the entire company. And I remember my manager came in and said, we want to promote you to restaurant leader. He said, when do you want to start? I said, to be honest with you, Robert, I said, I need to think about it. He says, what do you need to think about? You're 23, this is 6 figures, this is unheard of. I said, I just need to think about it. I drove back to Calgary, I had a meeting with my parents who had now turned their career into a business. They had built one of the most successful companies in Western Canada in the masonry business. They built most of the hospitals and schools and downtown buildings in our city. Very, very successful company. And I sat down with my parents, I said, Mom, Dad, what do you think? My dad dropped out of grade 11 to move to the city and built a company from scratch. And my dad said this, he goes, how many 40-year-olds were girls? I said, well, none. He says, why don't you save yourself 17 years and become an entrepreneur? I said, Dad, I'm 23, I'm broke, how am I going to start a business? And he says, well, your mom and I have been talking, and we're ready to pass the business on. 3rd generation, we got 200 employees. Money will never be an issue for you. It'll soon be multiple 6 figures. You know your mom and I, how well we do. This company will be yours. You're the oldest son, we're from Slovenia originally. This is the tradition. I said, Mom, Dad, I said, I got to be honest with you. I said, it's just not my heart. It's just not my heart. I can't do it just for the money. I can't do it just for the money. I said, Mom, he said, I want to build people. I want to be a part of something. And I have so much respect for what you and Dad built. I just don't know if it's my path. I just don't know if it's my journey. It's not in my heart. It was the hardest conversation I ever had in my life. I got back in my truck. I drove back to Edmonton, 3-hour drive. I cried the entire time. And it's all in my head, man, like what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I went back to Edmonton, and I'm sitting in a coffee shop with my business degree. I put out like 40, 50 resumes. Nobody was calling me. Everybody wanted experience, but nobody was willing to give me the experience. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I couldn't get a job. I was still working at Earl's, managing, because I didn't want to be the GM. And all of a sudden, I remember the way the door sounded when the chime hit, when this lady walked in second cup. We all have those 2 or 3 memories in our lives, the sound, the feel, the touch, that we can't get out of our head. This lady walked in, she was 40 years old. Her name was Susan Abram. She sat down at my table randomly. We started talking. She was a headhunter for a headhunting firm in Edmonton. I told her what I was looking for. I said, I want to get paid what I'm worth. I never want to hit a glass ceiling. I said, I want control of time because of my Crohn's disease. She looked in her bag and said, I don't have a job here for you. But she said, off the record, there's this financial thing you should go to on Thursday. I said, dude, I hate math. This is not for me. She goes, come check it out. I think it is for you. So I showed up on Thursday in my old hockey suit with a big hole under the arm, shaking everybody's hand like that. Right? I walked into that BPM. Here's who I met that BPM. I met Rel Michaud. I met Greg Chernapka. I met Derek Germain, I met Paxton Fritch, I met Cameron Agnew, I met Cameron Dunbar, all on the same BPM night, all working out of a 4,000 square foot office. This was years before Raja was even in Canada. And I walked into that office, and I'm telling you, I didn't understand a word they were saying on the financial side, but I remember exactly how I felt. Exactly how they made me feel. I felt like I was somebody in that environment. I felt like I belonged there. I felt like I could do something big, and I was addicted to that feeling. I wanted to come back and be a part of it just so I could feel that energy and that positivity. And I thought, man, if I could teach people how to make and save money, I know my family will be taken care of. What a noble cause. What a noble industry to be a part of. So I got my code. I got licensed in a week. I came full-time my 3rd month. I made 6 figures my first 12 months. I got this thing rolling. I don't have 2 gears. I got 1 gear. We got 1 life to live. I said, man, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. People are like, man, how'd you get things rolling so quick? Well, I was working 50 hours a week at my JOB, so I started working 50 hours a week in my business. It's the highest paying industry in North America. We have the best system of any company in financial services. I said, man, this is a 6-figure business. So there I was. I was 24 years old. I was making 6 figures. And I had a decision to make. It was time for me to move back to Calgary. But here's a crazy story I want to tell. 4 weeks into the business, I'm at a big event in Edmonton. And I'm sitting in the back row, 2,000 people. And one of the founders is there. And he goes, hey, I heard there's this guy in the room that passed his exam in 1 week. Stand up, son. I'm like, no, please don't. Please don't me. Please don't me. So he stood up. He goes, come on stage, son. And I was like, I couldn't hear anything. My heart was pounding through my ears. I come on stage. He's like, this guy's going places, and he's going to the top. And I look in the crowd, and who do I see? My old operations leader at Earl's, who was my boss's boss, who was making $250,000 at Earl's. And then it clicked a year before. He goes, Steve, I'm leaving Earl's, and I want to tell you why. Never called me. And who's beside him? My old night leader, who said, Steve, I'm leaving to go work with Mark, and we should talk about it. Never called me.
Wow.
It was Dumb and Dumber. And Mark, I'm not going to say what he said, but he goes, that's all I remember. And after, over the side, I'm like, dude, this is what you guys are doing? This is awesome. I said, why didn't you call me? And Mark goes, I'll be totally honest with you. You were number 3 on my top 25 list. Number 3. But when it was time to make calls in the startup, I told my trainer that you were just a young baker and you'd probably never make it here.
Wow.
And he said, I took my pen and I crossed you off my list. He said, I never should have done that. I was so enraged and I was so offended. All the years of like bullying and getting picked on and getting passed up just infuriated me. Honestly, I dedicated my first year to that guy, that comment. How dare you leave me off your list? Man, this opportunity is too good to not call every single person that you know. So what that I would have been 21 years old? You don't know what's inside me. You don't know what I'm made of. You don't know the fire that I have. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know where I want to go. The same as you guys. Man, fires me up. So I'm 24 years old, 6-figure earner. Can we get the next slide? This was me in the middle of my sweet suspenders. Right there, right? That was my first recruit, Rabobank, still in the business, 6-figure earner, Cameron Dunbar, right there. I was his exchange leg, 18 years old, didn't graduate from high school because he had to drop out to support his 4 younger brothers because his parents weren't willing to raise his brothers. Cameron Dunbar makes $400 grand a year. My buddy Rob makes 100 G's plus. I'm about to get it over $1 million here by convention. And everybody else in that picture is gone because they all quit. Got too hard. They couldn't make money quick enough. Right? Hey, Steve, I want to get this thing going, but tell me it's not a get rich quick. It's not a get rich quick. 2 weeks later, man, I'm out. I didn't get rich quick enough. I'm done. I'm done, it's not for me. So there I was, back moving Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I was 1 year into the business. I worked out of a small office in Calgary.